Hey guys, tonight we journey deep into the swirling sands of the Arabian desert, where heat shimmers off clay rooftops and spices curl through the air like whispered secrets. You're weaving through a bustling market in a city that could be Baghdad, maybe Damascus. It honestly doesn't matter. The air hums with life. Camels grunt beside brightly dyed fabrics, and everyone seems to know where they're going except for you. You were sent out for dates and rosewater. Simple stuff. But somehow, that errand will land you face to face with death. Literal, capital D, death. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where we all fall asleep together from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge down an alley that smells faintly of turmeric and old goat skin. Your sandals slap against warm stones worn smooth by centuries of wandering feet. As the sun slides down behind the minarets, shadows stretch longer and colder than they should. And that's when you feel it, that tingling, like you're being watched by something ancient. You glance behind. Nothing. Just a few old women haggling over figs and a lazy cat pretending it's not stalking your shoelaces. But something's off. You can't quite explain it. But it's like the air has shifted. A soft pressure behind your eyes. A hush in the wind. That's when your eyes land on a narrow stall between a spice merchant and a fabric dealer. You could have sworn it wasn't there a moment ago. It sells nothing. Or everything. It's unclear, just a man sitting cross-legged in the dark, staring straight at you. He has a bowl of what looks like dates, but they smell like smoke. His eyes are golden, not hazel, not light brown, gold. You try to look away, but your legs carry you forward. "Dates for a dream," the man says, smiling like he knows too much. First one's free. You reach into the bowl. The date is warm. Sweet. Too sweet. And suddenly, it's like the world lurches sideways. The stall disappears. The marketplace is gone. You're in a courtyard, stone walls climbing high, shadows flickering from torches you didn't light. A voice behind you. "You're late." You whirl around. There stands a tall figure draped in layers of black silk, unmoving despite the warm breeze. No face, just shadows beneath a hood. He steps forward, and it's like the air around him forgets how to be air. "You weren't supposed to eat that," he says. His voice is soft, almost bored. "You weren't supposed to see me yet." You stammer something about dates, errands, possibly a concussion. But he just raises a gloved hand. "I am death," he says. And not in the metaphorical, finger-wagging, bedtime story sort of way. No, he means it. The real deal. He even sounds tired, like he's been on shift since the dawn of time and would love just one day off. Historians still argue whether ancient Arabic folk beliefs ever personified death with such human traits. Some say it was a later adaptation. Others swear there's older precedent. Either way, this version isn't a skeleton. He looks more like an overworked librarian. "You've stepped out of line," he says. "Your name wasn't supposed to be on my list yet, but now that you've seen me..." He shrugs, as if to say rules are rules. You try bargaining, pleading, rambling about how you still haven't finished the dates and rosewater errand, but he just tilts his head. "I'll give you until dawn," he finally says, "to put your affairs in order." Then, with a flick of his sleeve, he's gone. You stand alone in the courtyard, clutching a single pit from the date you ate. It's glowing faintly, and it pulses in rhythm with your heartbeat. You're about to die. Not in 20 years. Not in some far-off war or dramatic fire. No, tonight. Unless you can find a way to outwit death himself. It's a dumb idea, a dangerous one, but the alternative is turning into a dusty footnote in someone else's cautionary tale. So, naturally, you do what any panicked, possibly cursed mortal would do. You run. You flee back into the market, only now everything looks off. Stalls are shuttered, lanterns flicker, the colors have dulled like old silk left too long in the sun. A beggar girl stares at you with mismatched eyes and whispers. He's already walking behind you. You spin. No one's there. But that doesn't mean she's wrong. And just like that, you make your choice. You're going to cheat death. Not just delay him. Not just hide in a temple or toss coins in a wishing well. You're going to break the rules, bend the sky, outwit the entity whose only job is to end things. A foolish plan? Sure. But then again, you've always had a stubborn streak. And besides, who wants to be normal? You don't remember your legs moving, but somehow you're outside the city walls. Breath ragged, sandals coated in dust, heart thumping like a drum at a wedding. There's no real plan yet. Just one goal. Get as far away as possible from wherever death might expect you to be. You head toward the dunes, the safe golden expanse that no one ever calls safe. And the further you go, the more the city shrinks behind you. Lights dimming, towers melting into the heat haze. But death is patient. That's what makes him so terrifying. He doesn't have to chase. He just waits. The sky darkens. Not into the cool blue of twilight, but into something stranger. Ink-black clouds with a copper sheen. Low and slow like they're watching you. It's not weather. It's something older. You collapse near a lone acacia tree, panting and clutching your side like your organs are arguing. That's when you hear footsteps. Not hurried, not angry, just deliberate. Sand crunches under soft shoes. You brace for the reappearance of death. But it's not him. A man approaches, thin, sun-darkened, wrapped in a strange blend of rags and silk. His face is half covered, but his eyes, oh, they sparkle. Mischief, memory, a bit of madness. I know who you are, he says without greeting, and I know who follows you. You blink. Are you a sorcerer? A hermit? A hallucination? Maybe all three, he replies. Or maybe I'm a man who also once tried to escape what you now face. He sits beside you like he's known you forever. You tell him everything. The date, the vision, the hooded figure, and somehow, he listens like he's heard it all before. The date you ate, he says slowly, wasn't a fruit, it was a contract. You choke? I ate a contract? He nods. Old magic. There are entire schools of thought on edible talismans, particularly in North African and Levantine folk traditions. That fruit was grown in the Garden of Afwan, where death plants his seeds. Once tasted, the agreement begins. Mainstream historians mostly scoff at the Garden of Afwan, calling it poetic nonsense. But some fringe scholars believe such a place exists, not in geography, but in symbolic space. The stranger clearly leans toward the latter view. He tosses you a pouch filled with something hard. Camel teeth, he says casually, for divination. You stare. I'm going to read camel teeth? He grins. You're going to trust camel teeth. He arranges them in the sand like runes, then squints. You've got three paths. East, toward the city of tombs. South, where the jinn still honor old debts. Or west, into the salt flats. Don't pick that one. Trust me. Wait. You say, brain barely keeping up. How do I know I can trust you? He doesn't answer directly, just leans in and says, because I'm not real. You blink, and he's gone. No trace, no footprints, just the camel teeth, now rearranged into the shape of an eye. You don't sleep, not because you're brave, but because even closing your eyes feels like inviting death to sneak in. The stars overhead wheel slowly in silence. At some point, A jackal laughs. Or maybe it's a child. Desert acoustics are funny that way. By dawn, you've decided east it is, to the city of tombs. The desert stretches before you like a riddle, flat 1 minute, mountainous the next. You begin walking again, body on autopilot, brain trying to file away the idea that maybe Death made a mistake. Maybe you're an oversight in his schedule. But that's the problem with Death. He doesn't miss appointments. By mid-morning, your lips are dry and cracked. The sun is less a ball of fire and more a giant, cruel spotlight, roasting your thoughts. You mutter to yourself, complain to rocks, and apologize to lizards. Delirium? Maybe. Or maybe that date contract is rewriting your senses. Then movement, a shimmer in the sand. Not a mirage. Not this time. It's a figure, stumbling toward you from the opposite direction. You both freeze. A long beat. Then the figure waves. "Salam!" they shout. "Is this the way to the city of tombs?" They're about your age, dressed like a merchant's apprentice, though a very bad one based on the state of their robes. You nod. Warily. They grin. Good, because my map just turned into a poem and won't stop reciting love verses. You blink. What? They hold up a parchment. It sings, in flawless rhymed Arabic, about someone's eyelashes. This is your first real clue. You're not the only one whose world just twisted sideways. The apprentice, who later admits their name is Hadiyah, joins you. You trade stories, water, and suspicions. And here's where it gets weirder. Every time you say death, the sand around your feet twitches, just a little, like it's listening. Let's make up a code word, Hadiyah suggests. For safety. You nod. Let's call him the guy who overbooks parties. Hadiyah chuckles. Or how about just Uncle? Perfect, totally non-threatening. You trek on. By sunset, there's a ridge ahead, and beyond it, stone towers jutting from the earth like broken teeth. The city of tombs. Remind me why we're going toward the creepy cemetery? Hadiyah asks. Because Uncle doesn't like libraries. You say. And this one might have a back door out of the contract. You both laugh, but there's nervousness in it. After all, you're not just running anymore, you're investigating, plotting, and Uncle definitely knows. You and Hadiyah reach the edge of the city of tombs just as the sun collapses behind the dunes like a dying ember. The air cools fast, almost too fast. 1 minute you're sweating, the next you're shivering in your bones. The city is quiet. Not the nobody's home quiet of an abandoned village, but the someone is absolutely watching us kind. Stone towers rise like ribs from a long-dead giant, each one carved with strange symbols. Not Arabic, not even Coptic. Just spirals and slashes, like someone tried to write music with knives. Looks welcoming, Hadiyah mutters, kicking a skull that turns out to be a weirdly carved gourd. You walk in. The sand muffles your steps, making everything feel too soft, too slow. Columns lean inward as if eavesdropping on your thoughts. You pass by mausoleums where entire bloodlines were buried upright, still clutching the scrolls they died protecting. Historians still argue whether this was ever a real necropolis, Hadiyah says. Voice low. Some say it was an underground university before it became a cemetery. Others say it always served both purposes. You nod, touching a wall carved with names so old they've been forgotten by time and remembered only by stone. There's something oddly respectful about this place, like even the wind whispers instead of howling. Then you see it. A broken archway, half sunken into the ground, leading into darkness. Someone, or something, has dragged a fresh line through the dust. Not footprints, just a single line. You exchange a look with Hadiyah. I'm not going in first, you say. Neither am I, she says. You both go in at the same time. The tunnel descends in spirals, the air growing colder with each step. Every now and then, torch sconces flicker to life on their own. You don't ask questions. You've learned not to. Eventually, the passage opens into a vast chamber. Books, so many books, piled, shelved, scattered across rugs and in cracked urns. It smells like parchment and mildew and something faintly herbal, like dried mint soaked in dust. Is this, Hadiyah whispers, Death's library? You finish. At the center of the room stands a lectern holding a single, massive tome. It's bound in dark leather, with an hourglass embedded in its cover. The sand inside flows upward. You approach, pulse spiking. The book opens with a creak like a tomb door. Pages flutter of their own accord, finally stopping on a page written entirely in your handwriting. Name, yours. Status, pending. Cause, undefined. Override, not available. You blink. I don't even know what any of this means. Hadiyah peers over your shoulder. Maybe we're early, or maybe we're bugs in the system. Then something shifts. Not in the room. In you. You glance toward a mirror leaning crooked against the wall, and for a split second, your reflection isn't yours. It's taller, thinner, wearing black silk. You whirl. Nothing. I think we're being watched. You whisper. Oh, now you think that? You wander further into the room, and something catches your eye. A scroll stuffed between two slabs of dried coral. You unroll it carefully. It's a map, but not of geography, of moments. Little events tied together by red thread. Birth of the Goat Prince. Collapse of the Tower of Salt. Stolen hour at the edge of noon. One of them is circled, the Shrouded Oasis. That's a place? You ask. Hadiyah shrugs. Or a metaphor. Either way, we're going. Before you leave, you scrawl your name next to another entry. Candidate, refuses compliance. Status, wily. The book doesn't close itself this time. It slams shut like it's angry. You run, because now the library feels less like a sanctuary and more like bait. Back in the city above, the towers lean a little closer. You notice it now. How the inscriptions pulse faintly when you're near. How shadows don't quite match the objects that cast them. Why would death keep a library? You wonder aloud. To remember what was lost, Hadiyah says, or to make sure it stays that way. Suddenly, your foot hits something hard beneath the sand. You dig, a mirror, round, bronze, uncracked despite its age. You hold it up, and the stars in the sky move. They swirl, rearrange, and settle into a shape, an oasis. That's it, you say. That's where we go next. Why do I feel like we're being led? You grin. Because we are. The question is, by whom? As you walk away from the city of tombs, you can't help but feel something stayed behind. A piece of you. Maybe, or maybe a copy. You don't mention the shadow you saw flicker beside Hadiyah for just a moment. Taller than her, cloaked in black, smiling faintly. Instead, you head toward the horizon, guided by the memory of starlight bending into maps. Because outwitting death isn't about running forever. It's about knowing where to run. You and Hadiyah walk through the night, guided by stars that no longer resemble constellations so much as cryptic diagrams. You've stopped trying to make sense of directions. The sky is your compass now, and it seems to want you to reach the oasis. By dawn, your feet are blistered, your water skin's nearly empty, and you're starting to question your life choices, your sanity, and your relationship with fermented camel milk. But then, as the horizon blinks pink and gold, you see it. A sliver of green, unreal green. The kind of green that shouldn't exist in the desert without divine permission. The oasis is nestled in a rocky basin, hidden from every direction except straight above. Palm trees sway where no wind touches. Water glitters in a pond so still it reflects the clouds like polished glass. A single stone bench sits at its edge, as if someone curated this setting for maximum mystery. You approach, half expecting the pond to vanish or laugh at you, but it stays still, and that's what unnerves you most. No frogs, no insects, not even a ripple from the breeze. You lean in, and that's when the water changes. It becomes a mirror, not of your face, not of the trees, of your death. You see yourself lying in a bed, old, gray, peaceful. Then the vision blinks. Now you're in a collapsed minaret, rubble on your chest, hands reaching out to someone who never arrives. Blink, you're falling through clouds, tethered to nothing, laughing hysterically as death himself waves from below. Each blink shows a different ending, some gentle, some horrifying, some weirdly bureaucratic. "This is a menu," Hadiyah whispers, watching her own reflections. It's showing us possibilities. Mainstream historians have often dismissed such mystical pools as literary devices, symbols for choice or destiny. But in rare pockets of Bedouin folklore, especially among the Al-Murra and Bani Khalid, there are whispered legends of wells that remember your end. This oasis? It's probably that. "I don't like mine," you say quietly. "Which one?" "Any of them?" She nods. "Same. That's when the air changes. A whisper, so soft it's more like a thought you didn't think, floats by. You may ask," it says, "but you must trade." A ripple spreads across the pond. A shape rises from the center, tall, slender, not wet. Though it emerges from water, its face is concealed in a veil of mist. No feet, no eyes, just presence. "You have touched the library," it says. "You have fled the path. You now seek options." You try to speak, but your mouth doesn't move. The figure turns to Hadiyah. "And you, unmarked, yet woven into the thread." The figure raises a hand. In it is a lamp, small, golden, its spout curled like a smile. "A jinn once owed a debt," the figure says. "It has been uncollected for centuries. Take this." You reach for it. The metal is warm, almost alive. As soon as your fingers close around the lamp, the figure is gone. No splash, no wind, just vanished. You turn to Hadiyah. "Did that just—" "Yep." You both stare at the lamp. "Well," she says. "Rub it." You hesitate. "What if it explodes? Then we get a really fast answer to the whole how do I die question." "Fair." You rub the lamp. Nothing happens. Then, slowly, a hiss, a crack, a puff of violet smoke. A being uncoils from the spout. Not in a burst, but with theatrical disinterest. The jinn is dressed in something between pajamas and royal regalia, eyes glowing, arms crossed. "Oh, this again," it mutters. You blink. "Excuse me? Every century or two?" The jinn sighs. Someone gets clever, chews on a cursed date, finds the oasis of echoes, gets handed me. So predictable. Hadiyah raises a hand. "Are you going to help us cheat death?" The jinn raises a brow. "Do I look like an actuarial consultant?" You resist the urge to say yes. The jinn drifts over the pond, tapping a finger on the surface. "You want to change the terms," it mutters. "But you can't erase a contract. You can only rewrite it." You exchange a glance with Hadiyah. "Rewrite?" The jinn flicks its wrist. A scroll appears in midair. "Your name is on it. You owe one death." It says, "That's the rule. But it doesn't have to be your death." Hadiyah's eyes widen. "You're suggesting we trade someone else?" You feel your stomach twist. "I'm suggesting nothing," the jinn says with a smirk. "Just providing options, like your little pond here." It vanishes before you can ask more. The scroll drops to the sand. You stare at it. You stare at the lamp. You stare at your own reflection in the pond. So many endings, so many wrong choices. One rule, one death ode. What if we find a loophole? Hadiyah asks. Voice soft. You look down at the scroll, at the line beneath your name. The line where the replacement could go. No. You say, we're not trading anyone. She exhales. Good. I was ready to tackle you if you said otherwise. You pack the lamp, hide the scroll, and step away from the oasis. You've seen the menu. You've met the supplier. Now it's time to find a rewrite. And Death? Death just felt a disturbance in his schedule. You leave the oasis with your thoughts louder than your footsteps. The sand crunches underfoot, but all you hear is the phrase echoing over and over. One death ode. The lamp is warm in your pack, like it has a pulse. The scroll feels heavier than parchment should. Hadiyah walks beside you, unusually quiet. Her brow furrowed as if she's trying to remember something just out of reach. Neither of you speaks until the sun begins its slow descent behind you. Where now? She finally asks. You pull out the old scroll map from the tomb library, the one with moments instead of places. One still glows faintly, the tomb city below. But another has begun to shimmer, the mask of the living. What does that even mean? She murmurs. You squint at it. No idea. But if we're rewriting a contract, we'll need more than a grumpy djinn and a magic pool of choose-your-own obituary. We need something that makes us invisible to death. You trace your finger along the map. The shimmer spreads. A line now runs from the oasis to a series of black dots descending beneath a plateau. A note appears, handwritten and sarcastic. Warning. Masks may cause unexpected personality shifts, moral dilemmas, and dramatic irony. Perfect, you mutter. Sounds like just the place. The trek takes 2 days. The sand turns grayer. The sky feels closer. By the time you arrive at the plateau, it's dusk again, and the stars feel sharper than usual, like they're watching through peepholes. You find a cave. The mouth is carved with symbols that look eerily similar to ones from the tomb library. Below them, in barely legible script, for those who wish to disappear, you descend. It's steep. The air grows thick with incense and thyme. You pass murals faded by centuries, figures with no faces kneeling before thrones made of mirrors. Eventually, you step into a chamber that feels hollowed out of time. Candles float mid-air. No flames. Just glows. In the center sits a pedestal with a black cloth draped over it. Hadiyah inches closer. Is that a mask? It is smooth, silver, featureless, like a blank face waiting to be filled in. You both stare at it. Then she reads the inscription etched into the pedestal. To wear this is to forget your name. To be unseen is to be unknown. But beware. Death doesn't chase ghosts. He becomes them. Still want to try? She asks. You swallow. No, but we're here. And without another word, you pick it up. The moment the mask touches your skin, you feel the change. Not physical, not entirely. It's like your body is still there, but your presence blurs. You look down and see your hands, but they don't quite belong to you. They're sharper, more angular. Hadiyah gasps. You look like someone else. Who? Like no one I've ever seen. But definitely not you. You try to take it off. It doesn't budge. Panic stirs in your chest. But then you hear it. A voice. Not external. Not from Hadiyah. Inside your own mind. Welcome to the Registry of Forgotten Souls. You stagger back. What was that? Hadiyah grabs your shoulders. Your voice changed. You touch your throat. It's true, you sound older, deeper, calmer. I think, you murmur. This is how we become invisible. The room responds to your words. The floating lights orbit faster. Symbols on the walls glow. And then, from a hidden alcove, a door opens. You step through and find yourself in a hall of mirrors. not reflective glass. These mirrors show versions of you, different lives, different faces. One's a merchant, one's a soldier, one's Death himself. Historians still debate the meaning of these mirror halls in Arabic folklore. Hadiyah says, awe in her voice. Some say they represent reincarnation. Others say they're traps, designed to steal your soul if you stare too long. Naturally, you stare, and one reflection blinks. You jump back. Okay, you hiss. That's enough spiritual trauma for one day. But then, behind you, a new figure appears in the mirror. Not you, not Hadiyah. Him! Uncle! Death. He stands behind your reflection, not moving, just existing with infinite patience. You spin around, no one. You look back. He's still in the mirror. I don't think he can see us. You whisper. Or, Hadiyah says slowly, he sees us, but doesn't recognize us. You leave the mirror hall, fast, outside the chamber. The mask finally peels away. It crumbles into ash in your hands, as if it never existed. But the effect lingers. You feel thinner, like a memory someone's trying to recall but can't quite place. I think it worked, you say. He can't follow what he can't name. Hadiyah nods, visibly shaken. Then what now? You don't have a plan yet, but you do have the lamp, the scroll, and now the knowledge that you can slip past death's sight, even if only briefly. You climb back to the surface under a full moon that feels too full. You don't know it yet, but every time you wore the mask, a tiny portion of you was left behind. And those reflections? They're still blinking, still waiting, because the longer you cheat death, the more you risk becoming him. The next morning, you're miles away from the plateau, trudging through cracked salt plains that glitter under the sun like spilled sugar. You left the mirror hall behind, but its silence follows you. Sometimes you still feel the echo of the mask around your face, like a phantom limb, like you're not entirely back to yourself. Hadiyah says nothing for hours, just walks beside you, head bowed, until she finally mutters, "So, how long do you think we can keep this up?" You don't answer, because even now you feel it. That sense, the tiniest tickle on the back of your neck. Like a gaze that's not quite present, but promised. Somewhere, somehow, death is still circling. You make camp by a ridge of red rock shaped like a sleeping camel. You eat stale flatbread, drink water that tastes faintly of copper, and try not to think about what you're becoming. As the fire flickers low, you unroll the scroll again. Your name, still there, but the ink has faded a little. The cause undefined line now says, obscured. That's something. You trace your finger along the thread map again. Another point begins to glow. It's labeled the Market of Forgotten Time. You tilt the scroll toward Hadiyah. Ever heard of it? She nods slowly. Only in riddles. They say it opens once every 100 years, and only if you're not looking for it. Sounds promising. She laughs softly. Or terrible. Still, the path feels clear. You pack up camp before dawn, leaving nothing but footprints and a half-eaten apricot. You travel northwest toward a region marked in old Bedouin songs as the place where years go missing. The desert changes as you approach. Trees appear where none should grow. The air smells like cardamom and wood smoke, though there are no fires. And suddenly, without warning, you round a dune and it's just there, a bazaar, floating in the middle of nowhere. No tents, just stalls, dozens of them, arranged in spirals around a dry fountain. The merchants wear cloaks with embroidered moons and sand-colored veils. Their goods? Not spices, not cloth, but memories. You walk past a woman selling childhood dreams in tiny glass bottles, past a man auctioning off last kisses. One booth sells bedtime stories, another, names of long-lost pets. And everywhere, are clocks, broken, ticking, reversed, sundials carved from bone. A sign reads, "Time is currency. Spend wisely." A merchant waves you over. "For a sliver of your past," she says. "I'll tell you what death fears most." You hesitate, but only for a moment. You offer her the memory of your 7th birthday, the one with the wooden horse and your father's off-key singing. She plucks it from your temple with fingers made of shadow and smiles. "Death," she whispers, "fears stories that never end." He dreads the looping tale, the one with no moral, no lesson, no closure. You blink. "Like immortality?" She shakes her head. "Like a bad joke that never lands?" Hadiyah snorts. "That actually tracks. You trade more." A childhood nickname gets you a phrase. The knife of two ends. An old nightmare earns you a warning. Avoid the weaver. You ask how to rewrite your contract. The merchant peers into your eyes. "You must trick death into signing off on a version where you live." "Why would he do that?" She grins. "Because even death forgets." You both step away, brains spinning. "What if—" you say slowly. "We distract him. Trick him into believing he already collected." "Like a bureaucratic sleight of hand?" "Exactly. And where do we get a copy of his paperwork?" The merchant behind you chuckles softly. "You don't get it," she says. "You forge it. You find the stall that sells ink made from eclipses and parchment spun from old prayers. A quill made from the feather of a crow that never died. You buy them all with the memory of your first heartbreak. It hurts less letting it go than you expect. Together, you and Hadiyah craft a new page. It matches the scroll perfectly, down to the creases, the curling of the script. The only difference? The final line now reads, "Death claimed, 1. Name, withheld, contract, fulfilled." And beneath it, your name fades completely. You stare at it. You don't feel free, but you feel shifted. It's not a lie, it's just not the full truth. Now you just need one thing, death's signature. Historians still argue whether ancient scribes ever created false ledgers to trick fate. Hadiyah says, some believe it was only metaphorical. Others think those scrolls still exist, in the margins between sleep and memory. You nod, rolling the forged page tight. "Then we'll take it to the source." The bazaar around you begins to vanish, stall by stall, fading like mist at sunrise. Merchants pack up with whispers and glances. Someone calls out, "Time's up." You look around. Hadiyah is gone. So is the scroll. Only the lamp remains in your pack, vibrating softly. And behind you, a voice. You should have spent more carefully. You spin. The merchant with the eclipse ink stares at you. Her face is blank now, smooth, like a mask. And her voice? Sounds just like your own. You take a slow step backward, feet crunching the salt-stained sand, staring at the woman, or the thing that just spoke with your voice. It's not just the tone, it's the cadence, the little stammer you had as a kid, the exact sigh you let out when things get too strange for logic. She, or it, smiles, and then, in a blink, she's gone. No wind, no puff of smoke, just empty air and the faint scent of old jasmine. The bazaar is completely erased now. You're standing alone in a cracked plane, as if none of it happened. But the parchment is still tucked safely in your satchel. The fake contract, your counterfeit escape route. You keep walking. There's no map anymore, just a pulse in your ribs pulling you northward. Something about the rhythm matches the lamp's soft humming in your pack. You start to sync your steps with it. Left, right, breath, blink. The dunes shift to flat clay, then to a shallow valley riddled with pillars of broken statues, torsos without arms, heads with eyes rubbed smooth. Some stand upright, others slump like they're tired of watching mortals pass by. You make camp beneath a broken column, and you dream for the first time in days. In the dream, you are death, but not how you'd imagined. No cloak, No scythe. You're just tired. A middle-aged office worker with bad posture and a stack of paperwork. A soul walks in. A woman holding a flower made of ice, and you reach for her file. But it's missing. You check the archives. Nothing. You sigh, look at the woman, and say, "Can we just pretend I did this one already?" And she nods. You wake up laughing. The next morning, Hadiyah is back. Just sitting by your fire, eating a date, like nothing happened. "Where were you?" you ask. She shrugs. "Somewhere sideways." She won't explain more. But she hands you something. A stone disc engraved with 2 eyes and a sun. They said it's a token, 1 entry to the Weaver's Nest. Who's they? Hard to say. Very echoey place. Might have been myself, actually. You don't push. At this point, you've learned that asking too many questions just delays the weird. You set off together, and the terrain starts to bend unnaturally. Hills fold in like cloth. Rocks hum beneath your feet. There's no wind, but the air feels pulled in every direction. Eventually, you find a door, just standing in the middle of the plain. A wooden archway carved with snakes eating their own tails. No walls, no building, just the door. And above it, burned into the wood, the Weaver. "Ready?" Hadiyah asks. Not remotely, but you step through. The inside is nothing. Not darkness, not void, just a sense of being somewhere else. Unanchored. Threads stretch in every direction, glowing slightly, twitching like sleeping fingers. Some are tangled, some are taut, some are cut. A figure hangs in the center, not on a chair, not standing, just suspended. The Weaver. Its body is wrapped in thousands of strands, like a silkworm cocoon. You can't see its face, but the head tilts as you approach. The air feels charged, like walking into a room just after lightning strikes nearby. You clear your throat because that's what you do when terrified. Hi. I think I need your help." The Weaver doesn't speak, but something tugs in your chest, your own voice, echoing back at you, but saying things you haven't said yet. "I will barter. 1 strand for 1 truth. 1 cut for 1 lie. We begin now." You're not sure if you're nodding or just blinking weirdly, but suddenly the thread tied to your heart begins to rise toward the Weaver. It brushes the figure's hand, and the world flips. You're not you anymore. You're in the body of a soldier in ancient Petra, lifting a spear under a red sun. Then you're a merchant haggling for dye in 11th century Cairo. Then a slave child under Roman rule, tracing stars into sand. Then a blind man in Damascus, singing poetry to a crowd that doesn't clap. Over and over, you live lives not your own. Moments, fragments, and through them all, a constant, death's hand, reaching somewhere in the background. Each time you try to hide, each time he finds you. But the last vision is different. You're a scribe, sitting at a desk in a mosque library, rewriting contracts. And you slip one in. A scroll forged in ink made from your own sleep. It says, quite simply, claim already made, soul dispersed, no further action required. And death signs it, willingly, bored, tired, just trying to move on. You snap back into your body, gasping. The Weaver is gone. Just a single strand hangs in the air. Yours, but it's looped now, bent back on itself. An Ouroboros of story, Hadiyah catches you as you stumble. You okay? I think I just forged my soul's receipt. She nods. Good. Because we're almost there. Almost where? She just smiles. And you notice, for the first time, that your shadow doesn't match your movements anymore. The thing about shadows is that they're supposed to follow you. Not lead, not twitch independently, not stretch and yawn when you haven't moved an inch. But that's exactly what your shadow is doing now, as you and Hadiyah stand on the edge of something that defies language, like an amphitheater built by dreams. Curved steps of obsidian slope downward into a deep hollow, where constellations swirl across a liquid sky, even though it's still daytime above. You try to speak, ask if she sees it too, but your voice stays in your throat, as though the air itself isn't accepting words anymore. You glance at Hadiyah. She's calm, even a little bored, picking lint from her sleeve. "Don't worry," she finally says, reading your panic. "This place is built from unsaid things." You almost make a joke, something dumb about how your high school diary probably helped architect half of it. But then the echo of a scream ripples from the center of the pit. Not loud, not human, just old. Like a sound that's been buried in the earth for too long and finally found an excuse to crawl back up. You take a cautious step forward. Your shadow stays still. You take another. It moves, but not with you. It slinks sideways, elongates, and then splits. One part stays attached to your feet. The other coils down the steps toward the center. "Oh," Hadiyah says, frowning. "That's not supposed to happen." "Comforting," you reply. Still, you follow it. The descent is slow. The steps aren't made for human proportions. Some are too wide, others too narrow, and a few seem to disappear altogether, as if deciding they no longer feel like existing. You stumble once, fall through empty air, and land gently, as if cradled by a sigh. You blink. Now you're on the floor of the amphitheater. No idea how, no idea when. Just here, at the center, there's a platform. On it, a mirror. It doesn't reflect you. It shows someone else, someone familiar. At first, you think it's your father, then an uncle, then your younger self. Then you realize it's every version of you that's ever wondered if you could cheat fate, and every single one of them looks exhausted. The mirror ripples, and death steps out. Not cloaked, not skeletal, just a man, mid-30s. Good shoes, smells faintly of oud and old paper. He looks like someone you once stood behind in a very long, very quiet DMV line. "All right," he says, pulling out a clipboard. "Let's get this over with." "You're frozen. Your death?" He checks the clipboard. "Depends on the day. Sometimes I'm called the accountant, other times, the archivist. One very awkward century, I was a ferret. But yes, today, death will do." You expect him to snarl, to threaten, to swing a scythe dramatically while lightning crashes behind him. Instead, he sighs. "You forged a false record," he says. "Not easy, not common, not appreciated. I had to." You say, "I wasn't ready. No one ever is." "But I really wasn't." He smiles. "Just a little?" "Fair, but unfortunately, cosmic bureaucracy doesn't care about feelings." He gestures to a small pedestal beside him. On it is a pair of scales, ancient and cracked. "You know what this is? Judgment?" you ask. He shakes his head. "No, that's marketing. This is balancing. You tricked the system, which means something else has to take your place." Your stomach drops. Hadiyah appears beside you, expression unreadable. "Wait," you say. "No, that's not fair." "Correct," Death replies. "It's not, but balance is balance." He holds out a small, folded parchment. It smells faintly of ink and rain. You hesitate. "What happens if I refuse?" Death shrugs. "Then someone else chooses for you. And trust me, they have worse taste." You take the paper. You open it. It reads, "The man who outwitted death claim. Voided replacement, pending. Suggested guide." You look at Hadiyah. She smiles bittersweet. "That's why I brought you here." Historians still argue whether Hadiyah ever existed. Some claim she was a trickster jinn. Others think she was an allegory, an idea that slipped into stories like a splinter under the skin. But carvings of her appear in places that shouldn't be connected. Sumerian urns, Andalusian scrollwork, even in the margin doodles of an Ottoman tax ledger. What's consistent, though, is that she always leads someone toward the impossible, and then disappears just before the ending. Like now, because when you look back, she's gone. Only the folded parchment remains, glowing faintly. Death watches you. Well, he asks, what'll it be? I thought I had no choice. You always have a choice. The universe just hates it when you realize that. So you do something unexpected. You tear the parchment in half. The amphitheater freezes. The stars above twist. And your shadow, the one that slithered off, begins to laugh. Suddenly, you're back on the surface. The door to the Weaver's realm behind you. Hadiyah's voice echoes from somewhere unseen. Not bad. You might just break the story after all. Your hand is empty. Your pack is gone. Even the lamp is quiet now. But you feel full, like your blood carries secrets, like your bones remember old names. And far in the distance, you see a city, golden domes, tall minarets, flags fluttering like whispers. Something about it calls to you. Not home, not safety, but possibility. You walk toward it, and your shadow, both of them now, walk beside you. The city greets you with silence. No bustling market, no distant song. Just streets that curve like questions and windows that blink shut the moment you look up. You don't know its name. It doesn't offer one. But the gates are open, as if expecting you, or daring you. You step inside. Immediately, something shifts. The ground is firm but too clean. No dust, no footprints, no signs of life. Buildings shimmer with a half-forgotten style. Part Mesopotamian ziggurat, part Andalusian courtyard, part dream. You turn a corner and find a fountain that pours upwards. Another turn, and a staircase spirals sideways along a wall, ending in nothing. And then, finally, sound a whisper, not behind you, not around you, inside you. This is what happens when no one dies. You freeze. A figure appears at the far end of the street. Tall, hooded, shimmering slightly, as though your eyes can't decide what it's made of. Fabric? Smoke? Memory? It doesn't walk so much as unfold toward you. You try to speak, but your voice hiccups. I've heard of this place. You manage. The city where death never enters. Yes, the figure says. Its voice is twofold, echo and origin. And no, I don't understand. That's the point. It leads you through the city. You see people, if they can still be called that. Some sit perfectly still on balconies, staring at nothing. Others walk in loops, never blinking. In one plaza, a group dances to music that doesn't play. Their feet bleed, but they keep spinning, smiling like masks carved in wax. They cannot leave, the figure says. They chose to outlive death. They did not know what that meant. Immortality? Stagnation. You pass a man staring at a locked door. Who is he? He was a king, refused to die. Now he waits for something to end him. But nothing will. You're led into a courtyard where flowers bloom in midair, petals never falling. A woman waters them with tears. She once made potions to extend life. The figure explains. Her own brew worked too well. Now she weeps because the flowers do not fade. You shiver. They're suffering. No. The figure corrects gently. They are forgetting. Their minds stretch thin. Time without consequence is not life. It is erosion. You stop walking. You brought me here to see this? No, the figure replies. You brought yourself. At the city's center is a tower with no top. Its base is carved with names, millions of them, your name among them. You feel it before you see it. It pulses faintly. There's no door, just an invitation, a gust of wind, a whisper. If you still wish to outwit me, this is your last chance. You place a hand on the wall. You expect pain? You expect collapse? Instead, it hums, warm. And then, like melting wax, the stone opens. Inside, stairs. You climb. Each step is a memory. They flicker beneath your feet. Your first lie. Your favorite sunset. The exact moment you decided not to die. And higher up, the memories that weren't yours. The lives you stole moments from. The path death was meant to take. And how you made it trip. At the top, there is no summit. Just air. and a desk, and death, back in his modern form. Crisp shirt, rolled sleeves, a tea-stained ledger in front of him. He doesn't look up. "I told you they'd forget," he says. You sit across from him. "They don't deserve that." "No," he says. "But that's not how stories work. You tricked your death. Now the weight of your life displaces someone else's." "I didn't ask for that. No one ever does." You're tired. Not just physically, deeply, cosmically tired. Like your soul needs a nap that would outlast empires. Death finally looks up. There is one way to fix it. You raise an eyebrow. You become the placeholder, the guide. You take the names. You hold the line until someone else comes to do what you did. You blink. "You want me to be death?" He laughs. "No, just the interim? A courier? A story?" A pause. Then you ask the real question. "Do I have a choice?" He leans back. "You always do." You look down. The ledger lies open. A fresh page waits. Your name, half written, ready to be completed or replaced. Outside the tower, the wind howls gently. A city waits. A world spins. And a balance teeters. You pick up the quill. You don't remember dipping the quill in ink. But somehow your hand moves with certainty. The ink is thick. Dark. Too dark. Somehow deeper than black. And as the nib touches the page, the sound it makes isn't the usual scratch, but something more organic, like a sigh or a heartbeat. You write your name. Not all of it. Just enough to blur the boundary. And suddenly, snap, the world uncoils. The tower vanishes. The city collapses like a sandcastle in wind. You're standing, not in the middle of the city anymore, but on a narrow path cutting through the edge of a desert. Ahead of you, a caravan trudges slowly, their figures shimmering in the heat. Behind you, the earth is flat and pale as parchment, as if nothing had ever been there at all. Death is gone. But you're not alone. In your hand is a staff, worn, wrapped in old linen. At its tip dangles a small silver bell that doesn't ring. On your back, a pouch. Inside, the ledger. It hums slightly, like a stomach digesting memory. You have become the courier. Not death, not quite life. Something between. Your first delivery is waiting. You don't know how, but you feel it, like the magnetic pull of something unfinished. You begin walking, bare feet kicking up dust that doesn't settle. With each step, the landscape changes subtly. The sand turns darker, coarser. Shapes begin to rise from the haze. Rocks, pillars, fragments of a once great place. You arrive at a tent made of mismatched silks and ropes. Inside, an old man sleeps, surrounded by scrolls and empty cups. He doesn't stir. You crouch beside him and open the ledger. His name is already there, written in a script you don't recognize but understand completely. You place your hand on the page. The tent darkens. The air thickens. The bell rings once, softly, and then the man exhales, a deep, contented breath, and simply fades, not vanishes, fades, like a story's final word dissolving in silence. Later, you walk through a village where no one speaks. They recognize you, not your face, your role. Some nod, some avoid your eyes. One child throws sand at you and runs away crying. You're not offended. You remember what it was like. The stubborn, impossible urge to cling to every second, to hoard time like gold. But time isn't gold. It's fog, and it never holds still. You keep moving. Your next delivery is unexpected. A young woman in a library that seems to go on forever. She sees you and smiles. "I've been waiting," she says, closing her book. "How did you know?" you ask. "Books always end." You pause. "Any regrets?" "Just one," she says. "I never learned how to dance." You blink. She grins. Will you stay a moment? And so you do. You don't take her yet. You let her tell you the ending of her favorite story. You sit with her as she recalls her father's voice, the feel of her first paper cut, the day she kissed someone she shouldn't have. You let her memory fill the air like perfume. Only then do you open the ledger, and when you do, she helps you turn the page. That night, as you walk through a mountain pass lit by twin moons, you begin to wonder how long this will last. Historians still argue whether early Arab concepts of death were more poetic than practical. You mutter aloud, mostly to yourself. Guess that depends on your definition of practical. You chuckle. One moon winks out, just for a second, then returns. You keep walking. You pass through a village where time froze mid-breath. A baker, hands covered in flour, stopped mid-laugh. A goat, in mid-air, a game of dice, eternally rolling. You don't step inside, just place a hand on the boundary and close your eyes. This is a place death skipped, not avoided, forgotten. You whisper an apology. You promise to return. You don't know if you mean it. Next, a woman whose husband begs you not to come. He throws salt, curses, songs, even offers you gold. You wait patiently on the threshold. Eventually, he tires. You sit beside him. He sobs. You touch his shoulder. She asked for you, you say softly. He looks up. How do you know? You open the ledger, and inside is a letter in her hand. To him, to you, to anyone willing to listen. You leave them alone for the end. It feels right. At twilight, you sit on a dune and watch the wind erase your footprints. You flip the pages of the ledger. They're filling faster now. But so are the margins, with little drawings, notes, the doodles of the people you've passed. Some smile, some cry, some leave nothing but smudges. And there, near the back, you see something new, your name. Again. This time, not half-written, but smaller, fainter, a suggestion. You close the book. Something inside you aches. The kind of ache that doesn't come from muscle or memory. The ache of a story running out of pages. You get up, the bell on your staff jingles once, then falls silent. You enter a city without gates, without guards, without any walls at all. It's just there, sprawled under a low sky like a cat too lazy to move. The buildings lean at odd angles, like they're mid-conversation and trying to get closer. You don't recognize the language on the signs, but somehow you know this place. You've seen it in the corner of a dream, maybe, or in the margin of someone else's memory. The streets are full but quiet. People move with purpose, yet say nothing. Everyone seems to know where they're going. Everyone but you. You sit on a stone step, flipping the ledger open on your knees. The ink ripples. A name appears, not written, but whispered into the page. It flickers faintly before settling. Your eyes lift across the street. A man sells dates from a cart carved with celestial maps. He sees you and nods, like he's been expecting you all day. You cross over, the ledger tucked beneath your arm like a sleeping cat. He doesn't flinch, just gestures to a back alley you hadn't noticed before. You follow it, stepping over puddles that reflect a different sky than the one above. In the courtyard at the end, a woman waits beneath a fig tree, weaving silver threads into her own hair. She hums a lullaby older than language. You don't interrupt, you wait. And when she finishes the song, she looks up and says, "It's about time." You nod. She reaches for the ledger. Her fingers never touch the paper, but the name lifts off like smoke. She exhales, then vanishes, leaving only a single silver strand curled like a question mark in the dust. You take it! That night, you dream of her song echoing in a chamber of stars. You wake, and you're still walking. You pass through a marketplace where nothing is for sale. just memories laid out on rugs. A boy offers you his first day of school in exchange for the feeling of rain. A woman offers her wedding in return for forgetting how it ended. You have nothing to trade, so you keep walking. A clock tower stands at the center, frozen at 2:37. No hands, just shadows that move without permission. You pause. Beneath the tower, a beggar recites facts about lost civilizations in perfect Arabic. He doesn't blink. "Did you know," he croaks, "that in medieval Cairo, bodies were sometimes buried with coins sewn under the tongue, not to pay death, but to silence regret?" You smile. "That one's new," he nods. "Most people don't like that one. I like it fine." He leans forward. "Want to know where your path ends?" You hesitate. "No." He grins, toothless and warm. "Good answer." Then he turns into dust. Not metaphorically, just poof. The ledger grows heavier. You pass through a room where 7 mirrors show 7 versions of you. One young, one old, one joyful, one afraid, one you don't recognize at all. That one smiles. You turn away. The next stop is a town made entirely of staircases. No roads, just infinite ways up or down. You climb. With each step, memories that aren't yours rush by. Arguments, first kisses, lost keys, births, old soup, last goodbyes. You reach the top and find a man sitting on a mat, legs crossed, eyes closed. "You've come far," he says. "Not really," you reply. "I'm mostly just following the book." He laughs. "Aren't we all?" You sit beside him. There's no need to open the ledger. He's already let go. He vanishes mid-breath. No pain, just gone. You wait a while longer. No reason. Just feels polite. Eventually, you leave. But not before you steal a single raisin from his bowl. It's the best thing you've ever tasted. As you descend the steps, night folds itself around you like an old blanket. In the distance, you see the outline of a fortress that glows faintly blue. You don't know why, but your feet steer toward it. Inside, guards ignore you, eyes glassy with sleep. The hallways are lined with paintings of people crying, no titles, no names, just tears. At the center of the keep lies a boy, maybe 10, maybe 200. He looks up at you and asks, "Do you know what death smells like?" You pause. Old leather, salt, something burning but gentle. He nods. "That's what I thought, too." You kneel beside him. He puts a hand on the ledger. "I'm not afraid." And you believe him. But you are. Not for him. For you. For the day the book runs out, still. You smile. He closes his eyes, and the fortress breathes one last time before vanishing. Later, you sit on a dune again. The stars spin slower now. The ledger hums louder. It smells faintly of saffron and ash. You think about the mirrors, the boy, the raisin. You think about how even now, death hasn't returned, hasn't challenged you. Maybe it's tired, maybe it's watching, maybe, just maybe, it's waiting for you to ask for help. You don't. You keep walking. You reach a place not marked on any map, a village drowned in silence, the kind of silence so thick, even your thoughts have to tiptoe. Everything is soft here. The clouds hang low like forgotten laundry, and the houses sag with the weight of dreams that never got finished. You don't knock. You just walk through the main road as if you belong, even though you clearly don't. No one looks at you, but somehow everyone sees you. You come to a fountain with no water, only stones stacked inside like ribs in a chest. Perched on the edge is a girl humming an unfamiliar tune. She wears a crown of copper wire twisted into the shape of birds. You sit. She doesn't stop singing. after a while. She opens one eye, peeks at the ledger on your lap, and says, "You know it's not yours, right?" "I know," you reply. "But you grip it tighter anyway." She laughs, not cruelly, just knowingly. "It'll get heavier, you know. That's the trick of it. Everyone thinks it gets lighter with each name. But no, it grows, until it's more than just names. It starts to carry everything." You look down, and for the first time, the ink isn't black. It pulses faintly red, like a heartbeat. A dusty wind passes. The girl vanishes with it. You continue down a side path that wasn't there before. It leads to a half-built tower with no doors, only windows. Each window shows a different life. You, married. You, alone. You, laughing in a market. You, at a desk, with no ledger in sight. One shows you at a funeral, your own. Maybe, maybe not. The windows don't explain. You don't ask, but you pause at one, your hand against another's, forehead pressed to theirs, whispering something you'll never remember. That one hurts. You move on. At the top of the hill, you find a hermit tending a garden of glass flowers. Each petal cuts the sunlight just slightly, fracturing it into 1,000 dancing spectrums. He doesn't turn as you approach, only says, "Some of them are empty, you know. The names, they never lived, never had time. Still matters?" you ask. He shrugs. "More than you think." You sit, help him prune a cracked tulip. Historians still argue whether souls that never breathed count the same in the great ledger. He smiles. "Of course they do. They dreamed. That's enough. You spend the night there. It feels longer than one night, maybe weeks, maybe lifetimes. But when you leave, the moon's still in the same place. Time doesn't argue. Farther along, you reach a river without a bridge. A ferryman waits, leaning on an oar carved with teeth, literal teeth, molars and incisors, set like pearls. You hesitate. "I don't have a coin," you say. He chuckles. "This isn't that river. Just hold the book." You do. And the water parts? Not dramatically, just politely. You walk across. At the center, you feel something pass through you, like smoke through gauze. You're not sure what it took, but afterward, the stars feel a little farther away. Across the river is a gate, not a grand one, just a small wooden arch with words you can't read but instinctively understand. You may still turn back. You don't, because it's far too late for that. Beyond, the landscape shifts. Trees grow upside down, their roots tangled in the air like questions with no answers. The wind speaks in lullabies you almost remember from childhood. You walk for what feels like days. Maybe it is. You no longer sleep, but you do rest. Sometimes, under the shade of impossible trees that tell jokes while you nap. Eventually, you reach a table in the middle of a clearing. Around it sit versions of you. Some are older, some are younger. One is blind, one wears armor, one sobs quietly, one looks utterly serene. They all turn when you arrive. No one speaks. You sit at the only empty chair. In front of you is a bowl of black olives and a knife. You don't eat, you don't speak, but you understand. This is the council. Of you. Of all the choices you never made, and all the consequences that still echo. One version of you, the one in armor, finally says, "So, you still think you're winning?" You don't answer, because you know the truth. No one beats death. Not forever. But that's not the point, is it? You stand, the council watches, the knife disappears, the bowl remains, the ledger hums. And as you walk away, one version of you, the crying one, whispers, "Thank you." You don't know what for, but you take the gratitude anyway. Fold it gently. Place it between the pages of the ledger like a pressed flower. You follow a road paved with flattened brass coins, worn smooth by the weight of many bare feet. The path has no edges. It seems to bleed into the sand and sky alike, like a watercolor left out in the rain. You walk it anyway, because what else is there to do? In the distance, you see something flicker, not a flame, but a shimmer, like heat, but colder. As you approach, the shimmer becomes a tent, red and gold, stitched together from old prayer rugs and imperial flags no longer in use. Inside, a man awaits you with skin the color of dried dates and eyes that blink twice for every once. His beard is plaited like rope, and his voice is deep enough to store thunder. "You've brought it," he says, not even glancing at the ledger clutched to your chest. You nod. He gestures to a table between you, a small round thing, barely large enough for 2 cups and a deck of cards, which, of course, are already there. "Play," he says. You sit, though your legs ache in a way that suggests they've grown older than the rest of you. He deals. The cards are unlike any you've seen. Instead of suits, they bear fragments. One has your mother's laugh. Another shows a broken bicycle. A third contains the sound of footsteps running away. You hesitate. He chuckles. You play by choosing which memory to risk and which to keep. You look at your hand. 5 cards. One is blank, the others pulse faintly, like old wounds. You lay down the blank. He raises an eyebrow. "Bold." He responds with a card showing a house burning quietly. Not flames, just slow, orange decay. You lose that round. A memory slips away. You're not sure what it was, only that the weight in your chest shifts slightly. Another hand. You choose your father's voice. He plays something that smells like jasmine and regret. You win. The scent curls around you, protective. You keep it. The game continues. Time folds itself in half. You laugh once. So does he. Eventually, he gathers the cards and stands. "The game is over. Did I win?" you ask. "No one wins," he says. "But you played well." As you leave the tent, you notice the sand outside has changed. It's now the color of bone, soft and powdery. Your footprints vanish instantly behind you, as if the world is politely erasing your trespass. Up ahead, a procession marches down the slope of a dried-up riverbed. Men and women and children, all wearing masks shaped like animals. Foxes, cranes, jackals, camels, even one very confused turtle. They're silent, but their feet make a rhythm. You fall in beside them without asking permission. One offers you a mask. Its face is blank. You wear it. They lead you to a domed building sunken into the ground like a forgotten secret. Inside, it's cold. Columns rise like stalactites from a mirrored floor. At the center is a dais with a single scroll resting on a cushion of velvet. You are handed the scroll without ceremony. You open it, and it's your name, repeated over and over. But each repetition carries a slightly different handwriting, as if written by all the versions of you that have ever existed. In the margins, doodles, a teacup, a scar, a girl holding a book upside down. You look around. Everyone's gone. You sit alone and begin reading your own name, softly, like a lullaby. That's when she appears, the woman from the beginning, the veiled figure who once warned you that death never forgets. She looks exactly the same. You, however, have changed. She sits beside you. No words, just shared breath. After a time, she says, "You've gone farther than most." You nod. "Are you ready for the final wager?" You don't ask what it is. You already know. She takes out a small pouch and empties its contents on the mirrored floor. Bones, dice, a dried fig, a feather scorched at the tip. "Pick one," she says. You pick the feather. She smiles. "You've chosen the soft ending. What was the alternative? She doesn't answer. The ground shakes gently. A slow, sleepy tremor, like the world turning over in bed. She rises. Follow the wind. It'll take you where you need to go. You do, and the wind does not rush. It cradles. It carries, like a mother carrying a child who doesn't yet know they've fallen asleep. The wind carries you gently, like an old cradle swung from stars. You don't remember standing up. You don't remember walking. But your feet are moving, and the world moves with you. The dunes are no longer dunes, but soft folds of some enormous sleeping creature, each breath lifting the horizon. You pass through a valley where lanterns float untethered in the air. No strings, no flames, just soft, steady pulses of light, as if someone captured fireflies in glass and taught them to hum lullabies. A child greets you there. Their face is yours, but younger, cleaner, still untouched by smoke or salt or loss. They don't speak. They offer a stone shaped like a question mark. You accept it without asking what it means, and the child vanishes. You're not scared. You're used to this now. People come, people go. Questions stay. Ahead lies a door set into the air itself, just hovering. A simple wooden thing with chipped paint and a tarnished handle. You reach for it. It doesn't open with a creak or a groan, just a sigh, like a tired soul finally letting someone in. Inside is a library. Not the grand halls you've seen in films with spiral staircases and ladders on wheels. No, this one is carved out of rock, with shelves grown like tree roots. Every book has your name on the spine. Some are thick and leather-bound, others are slim, with paper so thin you can see the ink from the other side. You take one. The title reads, "The Day You Stood Still While Everyone Else Ran." You remember that day, vividly. You read the page. It's exactly as it happened. And yet, now that you see it written down, it feels smaller, more manageable, like something you could fold up and tuck away. A scholar with eyes too large and fingers stained with ink appears beside you. He's cataloging everything, mumbling to himself. "You've lived an unruly plot," he mutters, but surprisingly coherent in hindsight. He asks if you'd like to donate your memories. You ask? To whom? He replies, "To those who haven't lived yet." You nod. You give him the ledger, the scroll, even the feather. All of it. He smiles and places them into a hollow in the wall, which swallows them with a sigh. The door you came through is gone now, replaced by an archway made of antlers and glass. You walk through it and emerge on a mountaintop, though you feel no cold. Below, a village slumbers. Lanterns flicker behind thick curtains. You see a shepherd dreaming beside his flock, a woman muttering recipes in her sleep, a child clinging to a doll shaped like a lizard. Death is here, not cloaked, not scythe-wielding, just sitting, legs swinging off the cliff's edge like a kid too small for the bench. They look at you and smile. You made it. You sit beside them. No fanfare. Just two beings, side by side. "Was this all a test?" you ask. Death shrugs. "Does it matter?" You both watch the stars blink lazily in the sky. "I thought you'd be scarier." You admit, "I thought you'd be smarter," Death says, grinning. You laugh. It echoes, just once, before dissolving into the night. "Why me?" you ask. Death doesn't answer right away. Then, "Because you asked the right question. Not how to avoid me, but how to outwit me. That's different." "And did I?" Death leans over, whispers something you'll never remember but will carry forever. Then they hand you a pouch. Inside, another mask. This one shaped like a lion's face, soft and warm and familiar. "Put it on when you're ready." Death says. You look down the other side of the mountain. There's no path, no road, just open sky and soft wind. You take a breath. You take a step, and the wind rises to meet you like an old friend who never left. You don't fall, you float. The air, thick and velvet-like, cradles you as you drift downward. Or is it upward? It no longer matters. Directions have unraveled, and time's thread hangs loose like a forgotten scarf in a summer breeze. You close your eyes and feel every moment of your life rise and swirl around you like incense smoke in a temple. The laughter that came from your belly and left you breathless. The nights you cried so silently even the walls didn't know. The dreams you never told anyone about because they felt too bright, too sacred. You land gently on a plain made entirely of stories. Rolled scrolls and fluttering parchment make up the ground, while the trees are quills dipping their leaves into lakes of ink. Each ripple in those lakes spells out forgotten truths and half-remembered promises. You step lightly, not wanting to disturb the sentences sleeping beneath your feet. At the center of the plain is a fire, not made of wood or coals, but of memories. Flickering images of your past swirl in the flames, your first heartbreak, your first real win, your worst haircut. You sit beside the fire, and it doesn't burn you. Instead, it warms that part of you you'd forgotten existed. The one still curious, still wide-eyed, still wondering what's behind every door. Someone joins you at the fire. You don't recognize them at first. They look like everyone you've ever loved, and no one you've ever met. Their voice is your voice, but with a softness you've never quite mastered. You outwitted death, they say, but not by running, not by hiding. You met death like an old friend and shared stories. That's how the truly clever do it. You nod, you believe them. They offer you a bowl filled with wind. You drink it, and suddenly, all the places you've ever wanted to go surge through your veins. Mountains you haven't climbed, cities you haven't wandered, kitchens you haven't danced in, faces you haven't kissed yet. Everything is possible again. You walk until the plain shifts into something more familiar. Your own bedroom, but quieter, more ancient. Candles flicker with steady patience. The sheets smell like warm bread and sun-dried linen. You lie down, not out of exhaustion, but out of acceptance. The lion mask rests beside your pillow, and for the first time, it purrs. Through the window, the stars murmur lullabies in a dialect only your soul understands. You watch them for a while, tracing constellations that might be stories, or maybe just really good lies. Historians still argue whether the sky tells truth or fiction. You no longer care. It's beautiful. And that's enough. Your eyelids grow heavy. Not in a rushed way, but like velvet stage curtains drawn slowly for the final bow. You smile, not because you won, not because you escaped, but because you danced so well that even death forgot the steps for a while. You whisper to the dark, "I'm ready for the next chapter." And the dark, kind and quiet, whispers back, "You already began it. Now, let yourself soften. There's no need to chase the ending anymore. You've walked deserts filled with riddles, spoken with lions and scholars, shared tea with shadows, and outwitted the thing we all spend a lifetime running from. What's left now isn't fear or victory, but peace. A deep, quiet kind. The kind that settles behind your ribs and purrs with your every breath. So breathe in, slow and easy. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. There's nothing to hold on to anymore. No masks, no scrolls, no tests. Just you, floating gently in a story well told. Somewhere. The stars continue their slow procession. The desert still shifts its dunes like soft sighs. And that strange little library? It's still there, waiting for the next brave soul to wander in, clutching a feather and a name. You're safe now. More than that, you're free. You've stared into the face of death and found a story instead. That's the magic of tales like these. They don't just lull you to sleep. They remind you that even the scariest things can be softened with a little wit, a little wonder, and a well-timed joke. So as your breathing slows, as the world blurs into velvet shadows and whispered dreams, know this: you danced with death and lived to tell the tale. You are the story now. Sleep well.